What's up, everybody? It's Smooth, and welcome to the first episode of the Hangtime Lounge. This is a show where I go off the script and talk to you all about some of the crazy stuff happening in the world of theme parks. And man, we got some crazy stuff to talk about today. Now, later in the episode, we're going to be playing a game of Should It Stay or Should It Go, where we look at each theme park in the Cedar Fair Six Flags chain. We discuss whether it should stay or should it go. But before we get into that, let's talk about this whole merger, because this is the craziest thing. I mean, I don't think any of us have ever seen this coming. Like, we would have seen this from a mile away. I mean, there have been discussions about it over the years, but we've all kind of like scoffed it off. It's like there's no way these two companies are going to merge together. Now, the way I found out about this was insanely bizarre. To put into context, I came home from a gig on Tuesday night, and for those of you who don't know, I work as a DJ outside of this whole YouTube thing. So I come home Tuesday night, I'm feeling something in my throat. I'm just like, what is this? Wake up Wednesday morning, I'm just violently ill. Absolutely just like sneezing, coughing, dizzy, just the whole 9 yards. So, take a bunch of Dayquil, take a bunch of NyQuil, go to sleep, wake up Thursday morning, and I see on my news feed Cedar Fair and Six Flags have merged together. And I swear to God, I thought I was having like a fever dream. I was like, there's no way this is real. Like, that's ridiculous. So, I go back to bed, wake up, and then I go on YouTube and I see a billion videos about it. And I'm like, okay, this is real. This is actually happening. Oh my gosh. Now, what makes this so insane is just the fact that these are two companies that have like clearly been working against each other for the last how many years. I mean, I'm sure like before most of us were even born, these two like companies have been going up against each other, trying to like kind of fit that sort of third tier in like the theme park world. Because I mean, you look at the tiers, right? You got like Universal and Disney, they're like competing at the top tier. And then you go down to the next tier and you got like Hershend and SeaWorld Entertainment, like super well themed theme parks, but more focused on roller coasters. And then you go down to the third tier, which is like roller coaster heavy parks. And then that's where you got Cedar Fair and Six Flags. And they've always kind of competed against each other. You look at a company like Six Flags, their focus has always been first of its kind, prototype, go big or go home, awesome coasters. They hit really good. When they don't, it's an absolute dud. Then you look at a company like Cedar Fair, where they're not like the biggest risk takers in the world, but they bring quality and they bring, just perfect lineups. Parks like Cedar Point and Kings Island come to mind. Just quality coasters. Nothing insanely groundbreaking, but the best in their like class, you know what I mean? And you look later on in the history of these two companies, Cedar Fair as of late, they've been starting to take this more thematic approach to their parks, like you look at places like Canada's Wonderland, where like they've been really focusing heavy on this Canadian theming, like really bringing that sort of flavor into the theme park. You look at places like Carowinds, where, they're really like focusing on the whole theme of the Carolinas and bringing that flavor in. But then you look at places like Six Flags, on the other hand, just a totally different philosophy. Just like, hey, look at this boomerang. Let's slap the flash onto it. There you go. DC, baby. Hey, you got a flat ride? DC that too. Let's just put DC on everything. Hey, this little kids ride? Let's put Looney Tunes on it. Oh my gosh. Hey, remember El Toro? Let's make the trains look like Kia Souls for some stupid reason. Like, it seems like Six Flags over the last like 10 years have been more focused on like really sloppy theming. Just make it as recognizable as humanly possible instead of, focusing on like original IPs and bringing original ideas to the table. And it's something that I've applauded Cedar Fair for the last like 10 years. And, I don't want to talk too much smack about Six Flags. I mean, they do get it right sometimes. I mean, Fiesta Texas, they've been doing a great job with the steampunk theming lately. I mean, look what they did with rides like Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger or Daredevil Dive or whatever they call it, that Zamperla Air Race. Like, they really like doing steampunk, but it seems like outside of steampunk, they really like doing DC. Now, I noticed one big fear in the theme park community right now is that with Six Flags and Cedar Fair merging, it's like all of a sudden all the Cedar Fair parks are gonna just straight up become Six Flags parks. Like, hey, this park has a B&M invert. It's a Batman coaster now. Hey, you got a Mega coaster. It's Superman now. And to be honest with you guys, I don't think it's as straightforward as that. Especially when you look at the corporate structure that's now going to be in place for this mega company. And I actually have open in front of me right now the investor presentation that they showed when they announced this merger. So, looking at the chain of command here, it seems like most of the big positions are actually held by Cedar Fair personnel. I mean, you got Richard Zimmerman, CEO of Cedar Fair. He'll now be the CEO of this big company. Same thing with Brian Withrow, former CFO of Cedar Fair. He's going to continue being CFO of this company. And then they got our friend Salim Bafool here. And that's why I call him Salim Bafool, because let's be honest, he really killed Six Flags. He's going to be executive chairman. Now, seeing as they are saying it's going to be like pretty much a 50-50 split of Six Flags personnel and Cedar Fair personnel. But at the same time, it seems like the biggest positions are mostly being held by Cedar Fair personnel. And, that's a really important thing, because I think the more Cedar Fair people you have in the high positions, like in the highest of the high positions, it means they get to keep that sort of philosophy of bringing in original ideas, quality investments, like really quality ideas, like the stuff that made Cedar Fair successful over the last 10 years, I should say. Hopefully they can take those philosophies and maybe help spread them into the more premier parks of Six Flags, let's take in for a second that the portfolio of this company is now just absolutely unbelievable. And this will be highlighted later on when we play Should It Stay or Should It Go. But we're now talking about a company that owns Cedar Point, Magic Mountain, Great Adventure, Kings Island, Canada's Wonderland, Carowinds, Knott's Berry Farm, Great America, Fiesta Texas. Some of the best theme parks in America are all now under one umbrella. So we're looking at one of the greatest portfolios out there. It's without a shadow of a doubt. The only fear I have, which I'm sure echoes with all of you out there, is will they be able to properly invest into all these theme parks? Because looking at their portfolio right now, theme parks, water parks, hotels, everything added together, you're looking at 42 parks. Now, that is a lot of theme parks. Now, funny enough, Six Flags has had this problem in the past. When they were owned by Premier Parks, they owned I swear a billion friggin' theme parks, not only in America, but also in Europe. They had all of these parks, and they were trying to invest millions of dollars into each park every year. This is the time when we were getting El Toro and X2 and Goliath at over Georgia, just insane, awesome roller coasters. But because they were trying to absolutely steamroll Cedar Fair and put these big investments every single year, what ended up happening was the company bankrupted itself. And in the ashes of that, we got like mid 2000s, 2010 Six Flags, where it's like, hey, every year, every park's going to get a brand new ride. Here, you get a Larson loop, and you get a Larson loop, and you get a Larson loop, and you get an SNS 40 free spin. Like, I'm hoping we don't end up in a very similar situation to that, where like every park's getting investments every year, but the investments are garbage. Like, I don't want to see that. And that's why I feel it's really important that, like, this company downsizes, trim the fat, get some of the more garbage parks out of the way. You know what I mean? The more money you have to play around with and the less theme parks you have. Actually, let's flip that around. This is how you know we're unscripted, people. The less theme parks you have, the more money you have to play around with, which means the more quality investments you can put into each theme park, which means better for us. Now, there is a slide in this presentation where they talk about their IP portfolio. So now we're looking at these parks having access to both Peanuts, Looney Tunes, DC, and going back to what I was saying earlier about how, they're going to slap DC in every park. Like, it's not going to happen. I mean, as easy as it would be to start just slapping DC IPs into places like Cedar Point or Carowinds, like, it would be a terrible idea because those theme parks are clearly trying to build its own identity. And the moment you start slapping these IPs into the park, it kind of just kills it completely. I mean, unless it's a park where, like, the identity of the park suits doing something like that. I mean, let's take, for example, Magic Mountain. I mean, what's the identity of the park? It's this mountain, this mystical mountain in the middle of the desert where you can, like, find all these crazy things in it, right? So why not in the Magic Mountain you find Gotham City? Like, it doesn't sound too ridiculous. But then you look at a park like Canada's Wonderland, why would you find Gotham City in Canada's Wonderland? Like, there's no Gotham City in Canada. I mean, if you wanted to put a Canadian superhero, you'd put Wolverine, but unfortunately they don't have access to the Marvel characters, so that's not going to happen. And if there's a Canadian DC character, let me know in the comments. I'm not aware of that, unfortunately. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility we could see one of these DC characters show up in these theme parks, but I mean, if they were smart about it, if this new mega company, which I guess they're calling themselves Six Flags, right? I guess if the Six Flags company was smart about this, if there's already DC in the park, I guess keep it, unless you want to take that park and really, like, really take it into, like, a more thematic direction. Like, I think a great example of a park that I think could benefit from taking the DC theming out of it would be a park like Fiesta Texas. Like, you have this theme park built in a quarry. Why not go in that more, like, Western quarry mining direction with it? Like, make it a lot more original IP, more thematic, more Cedar Fair, if you will. Now that park is owned by Cedar Fair, which, again, insane, unbelievable. Now that they're owned by that company, they can really take that park and I think really bump it up to the next level. Because I think we all know that park can be so much. I mean, it's incredible. It's one of the best theme parks in America. Don't get me wrong. But now it can really be in that upper echelon, like, truly, like surpass, like, maybe Dollywood or Silver Dollar City. And speaking of Herschend Entertainment, I want to bring up another important point here. That point being that now that Cedar Fair and Six Flags are no longer fighting against each other, they pretty much have found themselves a new opponent. That opponent being Herschend and SeaWorld. You see, I talked at the beginning of this about how there's, like, tiers to this whole thing. Universal and Disney at the top. You got Herschend and SeaWorld on level 2, and then Cedar Fair and Six Flags at level 3. By them merging together, they've pretty much now entered that next level, that upper echelon. They're now going to be fighting against SeaWorld and Hershey for like who is like the best like second tier theme park chain. And it's going to be really interesting because I think that I mean, despite the fact that they have this unbelievable amount of market share now, I mean, they now have theme parks in every quarter of the United States. They got stuff in Canada. They got stuff in Mexico. Like, unbelievable portfolio here. But with them now basically directly fighting against SeaWorld and Hershey now, I think that is what's going to push them into this more thematic edge, this more original IP, bringing the masses something that's of real quality here. Right now, it looks like they're in this whole quantity over quality. We're going to own all the United States and put a fucking Larson loop in every park. But if again, like I said, we got Cedar Fair guys at the top here. I think they're smart enough to know if you trim the fat and you focus on quality over quantity, this chain could possibly become the third best chain in the United States. It's totally possible. It's almost like they're there already. They just need to like book stamp it basically. And I believe it could happen. So, all the fans who are nervous right now that, oh, this is going to stagnate things. There's no more competition. They're not going to be pushing each other anymore. All these parks are going to be putting low investments because why would they fight each other? I don't think of it like that. I think if anything, this will make I think they'll push each other harder if anything, especially when they focus on their premier parks, when they focus on their big money makers and making sure that they're using those parks to draw people away from places like Universal or Disney or SeaWorld or Busch Gardens, Dollywood, Silver Dollar City, like all these big banger parks. By them merging together, they're now going to truly compete against all those guys. It feels a lot more possible now than it ever has before. So I'm excited to see what happens in the future with these guys. It will be really interesting. Either I'll be right or we'll be coming back in a year from now and I'll be wrong. We'll see what happens. Okay, here, let's take a quick break here, and when I come back, we'll be playing Should It Stay or Should It Go? All right, welcome back. So now we're going to be playing a little game called Should It Stay or Should It Go? So I have over here a little tier list that I made on Tier Maker, and we're going to pretty much go through each park in the Cedar Fair Six Flags chain and determine whether it's worth keeping or whether it's worth getting rid of. Now, I have 3 tiers over here. We got Premier Park. So these are parks that are must keep. This is the parks that they should be focusing on, making them the best parks possible. Like really showcasing these parks as like, this is what makes us who we are. We also got here mid AF. So these are parks that are like keep it for now. Not worth getting rid of yet. Maybe see in 5 or 10 years if it's worth keeping or not. Minor investments here and there, but like it's just there. And finally, we got get rid of it. So these are the parks that they should sell off, get the money from them, use that money to invest into capital for your premier parks and making those the best parks that they could possibly be. So let's not waste too much time here. Let's get right into this. So starting off, we got Six Flags Qiddiya. Look at this. So for those of you who don't know, this is the theme park they are currently building in Saudi Arabia. This park is going to be home to the world's tallest and fastest coaster, Falcon's Flight. And you also got some insane things like this crazy looking tilt coaster that does like a spiral drop. They got like a freaking version of like Top Thrill Dragster with a swing launch. They got a lot of cool looking coasters here. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are like, oh, it's Saudi Arabia. It should be in mid-AF. Because, of course, Saudi Arabia, why should that be a premier park? I'm going to put it in premier park. Simply because insane ride lineup, and it's an international park. And one thing you got to remember with the theme park chains that they are now competing with, those being Universal and Disney and SeaWorld, they all have international parks. And the more outreach to like the international market that this chain can have, the more they can fight and compete for market share against these other big companies. So having a big theme park in Saudi Arabia with record-breaking coasters, that's a really big deal. It doesn't matter if it's in a country known for oil money and slavery and all that. It doesn't matter. It's still important they have like that sort of big international mark, especially considering Six Flags has been trying to do this for so long. I mean, we had things like Six Flags Dubai Land, and that got canceled. I think there might have been one they tried to do in China at one point, and that got canceled. So if this Saudi Arabian park is like a domino that could lead to us getting more international Six Flags parks in the future, great. I'm all in for it. All right, so up next, we got California's Great America. Now, this is a bag of worms right here. So, this park is honestly a pretty good park. I mean, you got like 3 real solid roller coasters at this park. You got Flight Deck, Great B&M Invert, flies over water. You got like Railblazer, which is easily the best themed RMC Raptor out there. One of the first ever built. Super intense, quick, fast. You got an incredible GCI Woody here with Gold Striker as well. Now, and you also got some like great flat rides here. Pretty solid lineup. Location-wise, it's great too. It's built right across the street from Levi's Stadium, where the San Francisco 49ers play, one of the best teams in the NFL. And, it's a great location, great little park. The problem is that the company no longer owns the land that the park sits on. Recently, they've sold off the land to some company. I forgot who they sold it off to. But at the moment, they're currently leasing the land. They're in a 10-year contract. And at the end of that contract, they can decide whether to tear down the park or continue to lease the land further than that. But it seems like their intentions have been very clear since the beginning that they plan to tear this park down, which is an absolute shame. But it starts to make more sense with this merger as to why they're doing this. You see, with this merger, they now own Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, which is a park that's not too far down the street from California's Great America. They both sit in that Bay Area. They both draw from that San Francisco, Oakland crowd. So to have both of these theme parks so close to each other at this rate makes very little sense. I mean, unless they want to pull a Universal and have parks that are like 20, 30 miles apart and they're both operating at the same time. Like, they can't really pull that off, I don't think. And especially with them now owning both these parks, it's very possible we can see like this big Six Flags Cedar Fair company take all the rides out of Great America and use those rides to kind of bolster other parks lineups. I mean, let's look at Discovery Kingdom, for example. Imagine if Discovery Kingdom took out what's the name of their SLC? Kong? I almost called it T3. Imagine they ripped out Kong and they put in Flight Deck. Now instead of a SLC, you got a B&M invert. Might be a hand-me-down, but it's a B&M invert. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Imagine Discovery Kingdom if they had Railblazer. They had a little, like, RMC Raptor. That would easily stand out in their lineup. Imagine if Discovery Kingdom had Gold Striker. I mean, they don't have a wooden coaster anymore. They had a wooden coaster, but they RMC'd it, and now it's the Joker. So now you have a gap in that lineup for a wooden coaster. I mean, these are like 3 coasters that could easily bolster Discovery Kingdom's lineup and make it a far more interesting park in like the grand scheme of things. You got all these flat rides in Great America that you can easily move around to the other parks and bolster their lineups as well. So, as much as I like California's Great America, as much as I think it's a great park, I feel ultimately for the betterment of the company, we're going to have to get rid of it. Again, absolute shame, but it is what it is. All right. Let's see. Up next, we got Carowinds. All right, Premier Park. I mean, obviously, it's a Premier Park. I mean, it's the biggest park in the Carolinas. You got some incredible roller coasters there. You're looking at Fury 325. You're looking at Afterburn, Copperhead Strike. What else do you got? Intimidator. Some great roller coasters. And going back to that whole thing earlier about them retheming coasters, I just remembered this now. I hear a lot of people saying they're going to retheme Intimidator to Superman, and I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, NASCAR is such an important part of the Carolinas' identity. I mean, you got the headquarters of NASCAR there. You got Charlotte Motor Speedway, where they host the Coke 600 every year. Dale Earnhardt, he's from Kannapolis. If I'm correct, that's in North Carolina. I could be wrong, but I mean, like, NASCAR is such an important part of their identity. Sorry to trail back on a point from way earlier in the video, but here we are. Anyways, Carowinds, fantastic theme park, very well themed. This is a premier park. This is something that this company should showcase as this is what makes us the company that we are. And with the amount of investments they've been putting into the park lately, I'm sure that is going to continue from here on out. Like, this is not the end of Carowinds. This is a premier park, and they're going to keep pushing it like from here on out. Okay, here you go. Dorney Park. This is as mid as it gets over here. Now, I don't want to talk too much smack about Dorney Park because I think they do have some really good coasters here. Talon, incredible B&M invert. It's borderline underrated. Like, I don't feel like a lot of people talk about it much. And I mean, it's probably because it's in a small park in Pennsylvania, but it's a fantastic coaster. Steel Force, really big, doesn't pull the forces that a coaster like Magnum XL200 pulls, but great hyper coaster. It's really dominating in the skyline, looks really cool. You got a super unique B&M floorless coaster called Hydra the Revenge. Features the first ever JoJo rule. Really cool coaster. And now you got opening next year Iron Menace. Well-themed mini dive coaster. I love how it's basically Baron 1898 from Efteling. It's like literally the same layout, but I mean, if it's a good layout, might as well copy it, am I right? Now, the reason I have this in mid, and I mean, this park is like a gray area in my opinion. It could be like, it's like borderline premiere, but it's not fully premiere to me. I feel like there's just that something that's missing from it. You know what I mean? Whether it be like a true standout roller coaster or just like, that insane immersive theming that Cedar Fair has been leaning into lately. It's like, it's almost there, but it's not there yet. You know what I mean? Now, I feel like Dorney Park could cross over that threshold and become a premier park at one point. I maybe if they leaned into more of that kind of Pennsylvania vibe, like bring in those flavors. I don't know what they need to do. Like maybe just some more standout rides, and they'll really push Dorney Park to the next level. And especially considering that this is a theme park. I mean, this is the only theme park in this chain that sits in that sort of Pennsylvania market. And we all know Pennsylvania is one of the best theme park states in all of the United States. I mean, this park is competing against Kennywood and Knoebels and Hershey Park especially. And I'll even throw in Sesame Place in there. Now, the problem is, like, when you think of theme parks in the Pennsylvania area, Dorney Park ends up being one of the last parks. I mean, Hershey Park has an unbelievable coaster lineup. Kennywood's full of classics. Knoebels has the greatest wooden coaster in the States, potentially in the world. So there's nothing that makes Dorney Park stand out. So I can only hope that in the next couple years they could do something about this. Otherwise, I mean, this park will start to crawl more towards the get rid of it section. But for now, we're going to keep it at the top of mid AF. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to move up to the next level, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so up next we got Six Flags Magic Mountain Premier Park. Enough said. I mean, how is this not a Premier Park? I mean, one of the greatest coaster lineups in the world. X2, Twisted Colossus, Goliath. Okay, maybe that's not one of the best coasters there. But, like Revolution, Tatsu, Full Throttle, West Coast Racers. I mean, who doesn't know their coaster lineup? But they have some amazing coasters. Incredible, like, setting, incredible location. I mean, it's one of the best theme parks in the world. There's no doubt about it. And it's incredible how even during Salim Basul's reign of Six Flags, this park still felt like it was properly well taken care of, properly, like, they were getting proper investments, like, this has always been treated as one of the top parks. This is going to continue to be treated as one of the top parks. And now this is in the same chain as Cedar Point. Like, unbelievable. It is one of their premier parks, hands down. We don't have to go much further than that. Same thing with this next park, Six Flags Mexico. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to rank them within rankings. So, I mean, like, Magic Mountain, this is over Carowinds. Carowinds is over Mexico. Mexico is over Cadea. Like, we're going to do rankings within rankings here. So, Six Flags Mexico. This is the only park the chain has in Mexico. They treat it really well. They have some cool coasters there. You got Medusa Steel Coaster. You got Superman El Ultimo Escape, like, you got some really awesome coasters here. And they do treat the park really well. You can tell the park brings them a lot of capital. They love to have a big emphasis in this park on, events and festivals and parades. The Mexican market, they really eat up the DC and Looney Tunes IPs. They really love that stuff down there. So it would be absolutely stupid of the company to get rid of this park, since it's clearly such a successful park in their lineup. So, obvious keeper, Six Flags Mexico. Six Flags New England. Here's another keeper right here. Now, personally, I would love it if they rename this park to Six Flags Riverside. I think it would be a much cooler name than Six Flags New England. But either way, you're looking at a park with one of the greatest roller coasters of all time in Superman the Ride. And you got Wicked Cyclone, an incredible RMC hybrid. And another, as well as a whole other slew of coasters. What comes to my mind? Batman the Dark Knight, Floorless Coaster. What else did you have here? They have one of the only good SLCs out there in a Riddler Mindbender. They put those, like, new trains on it, and now it's incredible. This is a great park. You're capturing that whole Northeast market. Like, you got, like, Connecticut and New Hampshire and Massachusetts and all these, like, states in that upper Northeast end of the states. They're all coming to this theme park. Very well maintained. I think with the proper investment, this park could stand out a lot better than it does at the moment. But to call it a mid theme park would be unfair to what Six Flags New England is. It's definitely up there in terms of upper echelon. And I can't see any other theme park company really owning Six Flags New England. I'm sure this is a park that they're going to keep, and it might not get as much investment as parks as like Carowinds or Magic Mountain, but it's definitely one of their premier parks. Like it there's no doubt about it. And my review of Six Flags New England mirrors in this next park, Six Flags Over Georgia. Again, you're looking at the biggest park in that whole Georgia area. The only parks it's really competing with is like Fun Spot Atlanta and Wild Adventures. So, I mean, that's not even competition. The closest big theme parks you got to it, you got like Dollywood 3 hours away. You got Carowinds like 4 to 5 hours away. So, Georgia kind of sits in its own pocket. And they've been getting great investment in the last couple of years. I mean, they've gotten things like Twisted Cyclone, Daredevil Dive. They got Goliath years ago. They're getting the world's first Intamin Ultra Surf next year, which is awesome. I love the idea of it. Really unique. Something that really stands out. And it really feels like that true like Six Flags edition of putting something that's never been seen before and seeing how it goes. I love the ballsiness of it. And if they treat Six Flags Over Georgia as like what they're currently treating Fiesta Texas as, where it's like, let's introduce prototypes here, let's introduce new ideas, I think it would help really make Over Georgia stand out in the grand scheme of things. So it's definitely a premier park in my opinion. I think it's a park that they should really consider, like I said, with the whole idea of prototypes and all that. This park is going to definitely stick around for years to come. Over Texas, I always say stick to your roots and always remember your roots. So obviously this is going to stick around in the premier park section, but we're going to put this really low. This is kind of throttling mid and premier for me. Now, I know they have some great coasters here. They got like New Texas Giant, the first ever RMC hybrid. They got Titan. They got Shockwave. I feel like the company hasn't been doing a good job of investing into this park the way they should have. But to be fair, when you got this park in Fiesta, Texas, why wouldn't you focus on Fiesta, Texas? A park with such an incredible location and ride lineup. It's kind of sad that Over Texas has been pushed kind of to the wayside in a sense. Now, this is their original park. This is the first Six Flags park. Now, I feel like it is really important to keep this park, but with that being said, to keep it in this premier park tier, Six Flags really needs to focus on investment in this park, like proper investment. Now, I heard that they were supposed to do this like log flume expansion and then they canceled it at the last second and didn't say anything about it. I hope that's not true, but if it is true, that's really sad. Again, I really hope they focus on this park a lot more. I can't see them ever selling the park, which is why it's not down here, but they really need to focus on this park. They need to do a better job. Now, a park that's going to go in the mid-tier is this park over here, Six Flags St. Louis. Oh, my God. What a disaster of a theme park. I mean, they've gotten virtually nothing in the last 10 years. And when they finally got a coaster, it is like a Vekoma Jr. coaster with a garbage layout. I mean, what are they doing there? I mean, it's so obvious what needs to be done to make that park stand out. And it's RMCing the boss. Like, we all think it. We all know it's true. What is taking them so long to pull the trigger on that? Look, if in the next 5 years they do not pull the trigger on RMC boss, they might as well sell off the friggin' park and give it to another company that will treat it better than what they're doing now, because this is annoying, honestly. Like, that park could do so much better. I mean, I get it. It's in St. Louis. It's probably not the easiest park to pull in people from, but I mean, If Silver Dollar City can work so well in that area, why can't Six Flags St. Louis work well? With proper investment, that park can do wonders. It goes without saying. So, look, Six Flags, do something with it or get rid of it. It's simple as that. All right, Schlitterbahn. Look at this. Schlitterbahn. For those of you who don't know what Schlitterbahn is, first off, I didn't even know Cedar Fair owned Schlitterbahn. I actually had no idea about that. So I was surprised when I looked through Cedar Fair's portfolio and I saw this. I was like, oh, really? They own those water parks. That's crazy. Some of the best water parks in the world. Ultra themed. I mean, I'd argue they were the best water parks before like Volcano Bay and Yaz Island happened. These are obvious keepers. Obvious premier parks. I'd put this over Six Flags over Texas. I mean, they're water parks that are treated well. They have highly themed water slides. Millions of people go to them every year. I mean, everyone knows Schlitterbahn. I mean, if I'm correct, was Schlitterbahn where we saw the first water coaster, the Master Blaster, if you will? I'm pretty sure that's what it is. No, I don't know if it was this one or the other Schlitterbahn that appeared in Spy Kids 3D. I don't know if y'all saw that as a kid, but I remember vividly like the opening scene and they were at Schlitterbahn, and I was like, oh my god, I want to go there. It looks so cool. I never got to go there, but like fond memories of a movie, not of the place. But anyways, obvious keeper. I mean, come on, how do you not keep this in your portfolio? It's brilliant to have. Frontier City. Now, this is an interesting one. This is one of those like mini parks that Six Flags owns, but it's like they bought it and probably only put like one thing into it since they bought it. It's so low tier. And I've always had this vision that if a company like Herschend were to buy it, they would make it a proper themed experience, like something much better than what Six Flags is doing to it. Like, I feel like if any company were to buy Frontier City, they would do so much better with it than what Six Flags does. So, I mean, it's so obvious that this goes to get rid of it. I'll put this over Great America over here. It's such an obvious get rid of it. I mean, what's the point of keeping it? They don't do anything with it. Why bother? Same thing with this next park, La Ronde in Quebec, Canada. Garbage. Just the lowest of the low when it comes to the Six Flags chain. I mean, no investment. Their last big coaster was a fucking SLC. And they were going to get freaking Green Lantern First Flight, which is the worst coaster of all time. Like, they were going to own that coaster, and even they realized, okay, maybe we shouldn't build this. Probably not a great idea. I mean, what a garbage theme park. I mean, to be fair, maybe Cedar Fair could treat the park better. But at this rate, I would rather this park become, like, maybe independently ran or just make it some other company's problem. Save your money, sell it off, use the money to make these theme parks better. I mean, it goes without saying. Now, this next one's really interesting. Six Flags America. This is a park that, like, it feels like they're not trying with this park at all. I know they're doing the whole steampunk district, blah, blah, blah. They're doing the whole steampunk district next year, which, like I said earlier, Six Flags, they love doing steampunk. That's just, they love that theme for some reason. And I mean, cool that they're doing this, but it's so cheap. It's just, they're just slapping a whole coat of paint on, like, an area and just changing the trains on their SLC. But it feels like they never put any meaningful investments in this park. Now, could that change with this merger? Maybe. I don't know. It's possible, but I don't know. I don't know where I sit with this coaster, because on one hand, I'm like, get rid of it. But on the other hand, I'm like, they could keep it for 5 years and see what happens with it. Like, I'm so 50-50 with it. So I guess for the sake of them giving the park a chance, I'm going to put it over here, right at the tail end of mid-AF. But it's very possible in the next, couple years that we could see this park go over here. And they either sell it off or they just totally tear it down and just move the coasters to other parks. It's literally one or the other with this one. Let's talk about Darien Lake. Into get rid of it goes. They didn't need to buy it back in the first place. I don't know why they did. They bought it, threw a freaking Eurofighter in it, and then just totally forgot about this park. Like, why did they even bother with it? Get rid of it. Make it independent again. It will work way better without them being involved. Like, I don't know why they bought this. It's so stupid. Darien Lake. Sorry, Darien Lake. We just talked about Darien Lake. Discovery Kingdom. Now, this park is really interesting. Because this is another one of those parks that kind of throttles the line here between mid and premier. Now, I'm kind of willing to put it in premier just because you got the whole Bay Area. You got that whole market to work with. They're all going to this park. Big park with animal experiences and rides. With California's Great America closing, now you got a ton of coasters you could potentially send here to make the lineup better. There's a lot more reason to keep this theme park than to get rid of it. And again, with this whole Discovery Kingdom theme, you can really attract people with the idea of, oh, come see the animals, come ride the rides. Especially since there's no Busch Gardens in this area of, America. This can kind of fill that gap and attract people in that way, which they already do. You know what I mean? I'm talking it doesn't already do that. It already does that. Definitely, it deserves to be in the Premier Park, area. But, I mean, you know what? Actually, here, let's bump this up a little bit. Let's go, yeah, we'll put it over here. I think that's fair. I think they can bolster this park a lot more and make it a true premier park. It deserves it. Now, one thing I want to preface here is I think it'd be cool if with their premier parks, if they kind of dump the whole Six Flags name altogether. Imagine instead of Six Flags Magic Mountain, it's oh, we're going to Magic Mountain. We're going to Discovery Kingdom. I mean, this park, you can call it Six Flags Over Georgia. It fits that. And same with this. But, over here in this, upper echelon over here, if they drop the Six Flags name, I think, you have a lot of, unity between, the theme parks and their names. Especially when we go down here to, these parks. When we get to, Canada's Wonderland, Cedar Point. It'd be cool if there's, a lot more unity between the true premier parks. And I think it'll be better to explain this when we start shoving more of the true premier parks in there, like Fiesta Texas. Boom, up there. I mean, come on. I don't need to explain that. Great America. Boom. Come on. We all know Great America is a great park. Tons of fantastic coasters there. Max Force, American Eagle, Goliath, Raging Bull. Just a ton of great coasters. Canada's Wonderland. Boom again. The best park in Canada, one of my personal favorite theme parks. I have such a great personal connection with this one. Great theming, great everything. Cedar Point, #1 theme park in the chain. Just literally the greatest coaster lineup in the world. Maverick, Steel Vengeance, Top Thrill 2, Millennium Force. I mean, greatest lineup in the world. And I'm going to quickly throw Kings Island in here just so I can kind of get my point across. Same with a Great Adventure. I mean, we all know these are premier parks. We don't have to talk too much. So, imagine with this top line of theme parks, we'll stop here at Over Georgia. Imagine if this company, and we're check out our best theme parks, Cedar Point, Magic Mountain, Kings Island, Fiesta Texas, Canada's Wonderland, Great Adventure, Carowinds, Great America, Discovery Kingdom. that sort of uniform, that what's the word I'm looking for, uniformity, that sort of cohesion, that sort of synergy with the names, like the true top echelon of this company, they don't even need to add the Six Flags names to the park for you to know what it is. Like, this is the true best of the best we got. This is the top echelon. Because I can't imagine them being like Six Flags Carowinds. Like, that's going to sound stupid. Six Flags Cedar Point. Like, forget about it. Like, no way. Like, it's not going to happen. I would rather they removed Six Flags from the top echelon of the parks and they kept the name on parks like over Georgia, over Texas, Mexico, New England. Like, these parks, it makes sense to keep Six Flags as part of their name, but you look at the true upper echelon, no way. Like, forget about it. I think they will truly stand out on their own and have their own identity if you got rid of the Six Flags name in these parks. Now, let's get to the rest of these parks. We're already running way over time here. Hurricane Harbor Phoenix. This is a water park in Phoenix. It's not connected to any theme park. And by the way, I should mention that I don't have every single water park in here, and that's because if it's a water park located adjacent to a theme park but charges a separate admission, I pretty much consider it part of that theme park despite the fact that it's its own property. So like Magic Mountain, for example, they have a Hurricane Harbor across the street. It's its own like ticket. I consider it part of Magic Mountain because if you're going to sell one, you're going to sell the other. You know what I mean? Like, it's basically the same thing. I think it's important for them to keep Hurricane Harbor because it's the only park they have in that Phoenix area, and we're looking at an area that's slowly kind of growing now. I mean, tons of people are now moving to this area, mostly like people who are retiring. They're now making Phoenix their home. You have that big Mattel theme park that they're building next to the State Farm Arena down there. Brand new theme park, might generate some buzz. It's worth having a foothold in that market already because in the next 10 or so years, Phoenix could become the new Florida. It could be where everyone ends up going to. It starts with all the retirees, and then you're going to get young people moving there, and then next thing you know, it becomes a big place. I'm going to put this into Premiere because, again, just for that foothold and where it is right now, you got to keep it just for that. Hurricane Harbor Splash Town. Where is this one again? I actually don't even remember where this is. It's somewhere in the U.S. We're gonna put it in mid because I forgot where it is. Keep it for now. Great Escape. Now, I love Great Escape because it's such a unique concept in the Six Flags chain. More family-based, in the woods, indoor theme park, outdoor amusement park, a focus on camping, and, it's just something different. It's something to diversify their portfolio. Now, I would have put this in mid, but then they went and announced that they were building a Gravity Group wooden coaster. I think it's called Bobcat or something like that. When I saw that, I was like, okay, so they do actually care about this park. So I'm going to put this in low premiere. I'll put it behind, like, Schlitterbahn, I guess. Great. It's a great park to have in their lineup because, again, it gives them that diversity. I don't know if they'll invest in this park as much as, like, these guys over here. But, I mean, for them to get rid of it wouldn't make much sense because it falls in its own niche. And they have a clear direction with this park, and they're going in it with it. I feel like this is what they wanted with Frontier City, but they never gave it their all with that park. But at least what they're not putting in this, they're putting in this. So that matters. Michigan's Adventure. Listen, if they didn't care about this park before the merger, they're not going to care about it after the merger. Bye-bye. Get rid of it. Come on. Valley Fair. Controversial because I just talked about how it's important to preserve the origins of a company. Obviously, Cedar Fair, when they started, they were just Cedar Point and Valley Fair, hence Cedar Fair. But Again, this is a park that Cedar Fair just does not care about. Like, they don't add anything to it. It's like they totally forgot about the park. I feel like they're better off running as an independent park than relying on this Six Flags company to do anything with it. I'm going to put it down here and get rid of it. I mean, honestly, like, I wish the company did more with Valley Fair than what they do with it. It's really sad. Worlds of Fun. Wow. This is an interesting one. I'm almost tempted to put it in mid, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot going for this park, and I feel like with the right investment and the right thematic additions, this could become a premier park. So I'm willing to put it up here with like over Texas. I think they're kind of on the same level. You know what I mean? It's like with the right investment, they could become really good parks, like really incredible. Especially with Worlds of Fun. You used to have this around the world in 80s days theme to it, and I kind of want them to bring that back. I could only hope so because it kind of lost its way a little while back. Maybe in the future they could bring back the whole 80 days theme. I think Zambezi Zinger, I think that's a step in the right direction. Maybe from there they could, go off that and bring some cool stuff to it, I don't see them quite selling off the park because, you got that whole like Missouri kind of like market right there. Like if there was a park in like that area they could sell off, that would be Six Flags St. Louis. That's why it's down here and Worlds of Fun is up here. Because like they'd rather keep this than keep this and have this park, fight against Silver Dollar City. I mean, that's obvious. But I mean, if you can get something out of this park, now you got two parks fighting against Silver Dollar City. That's incredible. So I mean, they have every reason to keep this park. I would hope they, do more with it in the future. King's Dominion. Hello. Do we even have to talk about this park? I don't think so. There you go. Schlitterbahn. Same thing with the one in what's it called? New Brussels. I can't even read the screen from here. Anyways, two Schlitterbahn parks. Keepers. Enough said. Castaway Bay. This is an indoor water park across the street from Cedar Point. We're going to keep it low in the premier parks, but there's no chance they're going to sell that anytime soon. I'm sure they make a lot of money off this. They might as well keep it. Knott's Berry Farm. Get rid of it. No, I'm just kidding. Obvious keeper. Way up here. Ultra Premier. I'll put it over here for now, I guess. I fucking love Knott's Berry Farm. One of the best themed theme parks out there. So much history there. It's right down the street from Disneyland. Great lineup. I mean, what's not to love about Knott's Berry Farm? Obvious premier park right here. I might have to move some stuff around here because this is not really showing the difference between like the premier parks and the mid parks. Here, let me move some stuff around here really quick. Bear with me. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so I moved some stuff around here just to kind of better showcase what I'm talking about. Like, over here you got like premier show. Actually, wait, hold on. Let me move this down here. Okay, we got our like premier parks and we got our okay parks. You know what I mean? Like, the more deeper down this list you go, the more you get towards this park could potentially be sold one day, but they'll probably keep it. Let me do one more move here. There we go. Woo! You gotta love unscripted smooth here. This is a nightmare. Anyways, let's go to Six Flags Hurricane Harbor in Concord. We only got 4 more parks here. These are all water parks. I'm going to pretty much throw them all in mid. So the thing with all of these water parks is that these are standalone water parks. They don't they're not next to a theme park. They kind of just like sit in their own areas. Now, there's definitely like the market for that. And the fact that Six Flags even taps into that market, you got to applaud them for that. That's something Cedar Fair doesn't do. So being able to access all of these like water park heads, bring them to something where they can, just go and ride slides. People love that stuff. Definitely worth keeping. I'm not the biggest water park person, so to be honest with y'all, I actually know nothing about these water parks. They kind of just exist. Here, let me move these around so because I don't see Six Flags selling these at all. Yeah, we'll keep it like that. All right, so let's look over everything again here. So down here and get rid of it, we got Valley Fair, Michigan's Adventure, Frontier City, Darien Lake, California's Great America, and La Ronde. These are all parks that I can see them just sell it off, get the money, invest into these theme parks up here. Here in mid as fuck, we got Six Flags New England, Great Escape over Texas, Castaway Bay. Actually, let's move Dorney Park up here. Here we go. And then we just got a bunch of water parks afterwards. These 4 parks over here, they're going to keep them. I can't imagine them getting the biggest investments in the world, but they're going to be kept. And I can only hope that Six Flags, they treat these parks well. And if you thought these 4 are going to be invested bad, I mean, St. Louis and America, they're bound to end up and get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like, they are so borderline. They're just sitting there right now. There's a little hope, but I don't know. Up here, you got the parks that I can see, like, constant investments. They're going to treat these parks awesomely. They're going to be like, they're going to showcase these parks. Like, this is what makes us us. Cedar Point, Magic Mountain, Kings Island, Fiesta Texas, Wonderland, Knott's, Great Adventure, Carowinds, Great America, Kings Island, Discovery Kingdom, Six Flags Over Georgia, Six Flags Mexico. These are your premier parks. Like, and I mean, honestly, let's pretend none of this was here. Imagine if like all they had was from Six Flags from Worlds of Fun, like all the way up here. Like, imagine if this was just the whole chain, like literally, like these guys would be like the most formidable force in like all the theme parks. Now, I hope that they take the Cedar Fair approach with all these Six Flags parks here and like really bring some cohesion in the lineup in the sense of great theming, quality attractions, really make these parks something special. I think as long as they focus on that, we're looking at potentially like one of the best theme park chains out there. Like, they'll surpass SeaWorld, they'll surpass Hershend. They might not surpass Universal, but I mean, hey, at least like with like these 2 parks, or with these 2 chains, I should say. With these 2 theme park chains now working together, we're looking at something real special here. Something that could totally change the landscape of theme parks as we know it. So, I hope you all enjoyed this super long episode, the first episode of the Hangtime Lounge. I had a lot of fun here, going totally off the script and just talking to you guys. If you guys enjoyed this episode, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like, hit subscribe, you know the whole drill. I don't gotta tell you all that. Thank you so much for making it this far. If you made it this far, thank you. Love y'all. My name is Smooth, and until next time, until the next big breaking news article, or until I feel like doing one of these again. Until then, Smooth. Oh my god, I can't even do my outro correctly. My name is Smooth, and until next time, I wish you all nothing but smooth travels. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. Take care. Love y'all. See ya.